the old Erzgebirge mines. If you hear knocking from behind a sealed wall, do not knock back. Most people who grew up near these mountains know the rule. They learn it in a way you learn things that matter, not in school, not from a book, but from someone older who says it once, quietly, and doesn't elaborate. Because the elaboration isn't necessary, because the rule is the point. Do not knock back. The reason the rule exists is not folklore, it is not superstition. It is 500 years of miners learning the hard way what happens when you answer. I went to the Erzgebirge to find people who had answered. I found two. One of them is still trying to understand what followed him home. The other one found a missing child. Neither of them will go underground again. The Ore Mountains have been mined since the 12th century. At the height of the silver boom, these tunnels ran so deep and so wide that entire communities existed underground during shifts. When sections collapsed, and they collapsed often, the only way the men below could communicate with the rescue teams above was by knocking on the rock. 3 knocks meant alive. 3 knocks meant keep digging. 3 knocks meant I am here, I am here, I am still here. Many of them were never reached in time. The knocking would continue for days sometimes, growing weaker, then stopping entirely. The miners who survived those collapses, who came back up, who listened to the knocking slow down and go quiet from the other side of the rock, they said afterward that the sound never left them, that they heard it in their sleep, that certain rhythm, certain sequences of 3 would stop them cold in the middle of an ordinary day. And then something else started happening. Miners working alone in deep sections began to hear knocking from behind walls that had been sealed off for decades, from passages that had collapsed and been bricked up, from places where by any rational account there was nothing left alive. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, exactly the rhythm the trap man had used. The experienced miners did not answer. They put down their tools, moved back from the wall, and said nothing. The ones who answered, who knocked back out of instinct, out of habit, out of the same reflex that had driven the rescue teams to dig toward that sound for generations, did not always come back up the same way they went down. Some did not come back up at all. Gerhard is 61. He spent 22 years working these tunnels before a back injury retired him early. He lives in Schneeberg, 2 streets from a mine entrance that is now a tourist attraction. He knocked back in 2009. He was doing structural assessment work alone in a sealed section when he heard it. 3 knocks from behind a bricked up wall. Close, deliberate. He said he knew the rule. He known it for his whole life. He knocked back anyway. It was a reflex, he told me. 20 years of working alongside men who knocked to signal they were alive. You hear 3 knocks and your hand moves before your brain does. It was over before I decided anything. That night he woke up at 2 in the morning to knocking on his bedroom wall. Same rhythm, 3 knocks, slow, deliberate. His wife heard it. His daughter, visiting for the weekend, heard it and left the next morning. For 3 weeks it moved through the house, the bedroom wall, the hallway floor, once the underside of the kitchen table while they were eating. Never explained, never loud, just 3 knocks in the rhythm of trap man signaling that he was still alive from whatever surface it had decided to use that night. Gerhard went back to the tunnel. He stood in front of the sealed wall. He did not knock. He said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I won't do it again." He told me this part of the story with a slight wince, like a man describing something embarrassing, standing in a dark tunnel, apologizing to a brick wall. The knocking stopped that night, and it didn't come back. I asked him what he thought was behind the wall. He said, the man who died in there, or something wearing the memory of them. Something that learned the knock because the knock meant someone was coming, and when I answered, it thought someone was coming. He looked at his hands. When I went back and told it no one was coming, it stopped waiting. He drank his coffee. Outside the window, 2 streets away, a tour group was filing into the mine entrance. He didn't look up. The second person I spoke to asked me not to use his full name. I'll call him Klaus. He's 44 years old and has been a police officer in the Erzgebirge region for 18 years. In the winter of 2019, a 12-year-old boy went missing near the old Himmelfahrt mine outside of Freiberg. He had been hiking with his family, then he wandered off. And by the time the alarm was raised, it was getting dark and the temperature was dropping fast. The search team went in with torches and dogs. Klaus was part of the team. He described the mine as vast and disorienting in a way that his training hadn't prepared him for. The tourist sections are lit and mapped and manageable. The sections beyond the barriers are something else. Dark is total and the passages branch constantly. And the maps they had were partial, and the dogs were behaving strangely, stopping, refusing to go further, pulling back toward the entrance in a way that the handlers said they hadn't seen before. Klaus got separated from the team. He realized he was alone and stopped moving and called in on the radio. Bad signal, of course. He could hear the others, but they couldn't hear him clearly. He stayed put and waited and swept his torch across the passage walls. That's when he heard it, knocking from behind the wall to his left. A section that had been sealed with heavy timber boards. Old, the wood black with age. 3 knocks, then silence, then 3 more. Of course he thought it was the boy. I'm a police officer, he told me. I am trained to respond to signals. Someone knocking in a sealed section of a mine during a child rescue. I didn't stop to think about anything else. I knocked back 3 times, and I called out, "Can you hear me? Are you hurt? Stay where you are." Then silence. And then 3 knocks. Same rhythm, same wall. He knocked again, called again. Told the boy, told whatever was there, that help was coming, that he just needed to keep making noise, that he was going to get him out. 3 knocks came back. Every time he knocked, 3 knocks came back. Not the frantic, irregular hammering of a frightened child. It was measured, patient. The same 3 knocks, same rhythm, no variation, no escalation, no voice, no response to anything he said, just the 3 knocks. It took him longer than he wanted to admit to understand that it was not the boy. I don't know when I knew, he said. There wasn't a single moment. It was more like the call started getting worse. My torch started flickering, even though the battery was new, and the knocking was so regular, too regular, if you ask me. No child keeping themselves calm in the dark knocks like that. It was like a recording, like something paying back a sound it has stored. He stopped knocking. He stopped calling out. He pressed his back against the opposite wall and held very still, and the knocking continued for a while without him. 3 knocks, then silence, then 3 knocks, silence again, and then it stopped. His radio cleared. He got the team's location. He found them in 8 minutes. The boy was found 2 hours later in a section near the entrance, cold and frightened, but unharmed. He had never gone near the sealed passages. He had not been anywhere close to where Klaus had heard the knocking. I asked Klaus how long the knocking had continued after he stopped responding. He thought about it a little. Maybe 5 minutes, he said. And then it just stopped. Like it lost interest. Like it had been waiting to see if I'd keep going. And when I didn't, it went back to whatever it was doing before I answered. He paused. That's the part that stays with me. Not that it knocked, but that it stopped. Like it was patient, like it could wait. Like it had been waiting for a very long time. Already a few more minutes made no difference. He looked at me steadily. You know, I grew up here. I knew the rule. I thought there was a child in there. I thought the rule didn't apply because there was a child. The rule always applies. The Erzgebirge mines still operate in a limited form. The tourist sections are lit and guided, and just ordinary. You can walk the same passages that 16th century miners walked and feel, if you are paying attention, that particular quality of deep underground silence that exists nowhere else on Earth. The sealed sections are still sealed. Gerhard Weiss lives 2 streets from the mine entrance, but he doesn't go in anymore. Klaus still works search and rescue in the region. He told me that he has updated his personal protocol for underground searches, that there is now one instruction he gives every member of any team he leads before they go in. If you hear knocking from behind a sealed wall, you do not knock back. He said his colleagues thinks it's an odd thing to specify, that most of them nod and move on without thinking much about it. He said, good. I'd rather they think I'm strange than learn the reason the hard way. On my way out of Schneeberg, I drove past the Weißer Hirsch entrance, a tour group filing in, children, families, ice cream, everything ordinary. I didn't stop. I had heard enough about what was down there.